Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Carr. Today my topic is prescription medication. So I'm sorry I have a cold right now. On the topic of colds, I get them a couple times a year. It's pretty common. One of the two colds is usually pretty serious. I get some kind of sinus infection or strep throat or something like that. And when I do, I usually end up going to the doctors. When I go to the doctors, he diagnoses me with what's wrong. After he diagnoses me, he usually prescribes me some kind of prescription medication, an antibiotic. After he does this, he usually instructs me on how to take it. It's usually something along the lines of, take it for the next 10 days after your first meal, and make sure to take it until it's completely gone. After this, he usually warns me about the side effects of the prescription medication. Once I'm done with my doctor's appointment, I usually go to the pharmacist where they go over this information with me again. After they go over the information with me, they have me sign a little electronic box that's on the counter stating that I got the information. Now when I go home, I take it as directed for the next 6 days. On the 7th day, I decide to stop taking it because I don't like the way that it makes me feel, such as the side effects that come with it, which might be an upset stomach or a bad taste in my mouth. Today, my thesis is patients are failing to adhere to the directions of medical professions about prescription medications. First, we will talk about patients fail to follow medication directions. Second, we will talk about patients neglect to acknowledge side effect warnings. And third, we will talk about prescription medication patients contribute to the drug abuse epidemic in America. So first, let's talk about patients failing to follow medication directions. The Food and Drug Administration posted an article February 2016 on their website stating, many patients do not follow healthcare provider instructions on how to take medications for various reasons, such as not understanding the directions, forgetfulness, multiple medications with different regimens, unpleased side effects, or the medication doesn't seem to be working. The website learnaboutrxsafety.org posted an article titled Healthy Dose of Reality, Quick Facts on Medication Use, stating nearly 3 out of 4 Americans report not always taking the prescription medication as directed. So first we talked about patients failing to follow medication directions. Second, we will talk about patients neglecting to acknowledge side effect warnings. On May 26, 2016, an article titled Prescription Medication Side Effects, posted by drugwatch.com, states about 4.5 million Americans visit their doctor's office or the emergency room because of adverse prescription drug side effects. Melody Peterson states in a 2010 article on alternate.org that a study estimating that 100,000 Americans die each year from their prescriptions, and this looked only at deaths from known side effects. So first, we talked about patients failing to follow medication directions. Second, we talked about patients neglect to acknowledge side effect warnings. And third, we're going to talk about prescription medication patients contribute to the drug abuse epidemic in America. The National Institute on Drug Abuse writes, more people die from overdoses of prescription opioids than all other drugs combined, including heroin and cocaine. DrugFreeWorld.org writes, every day in the U.S., 2,500 youth ages 12 to 17 of use of prescription pain reliever for the first time. 60 to 70% say that home medicine cabinets are their source of drugs. To conclude my speech, I would like for you all to take in mind my speech next time you are prescribed a medication. My thesis today was patients are failing to adhere to the directions of healthcare professionals about prescription medications. First, I told you patients fail to follow medication directions. Second, I told you patients neglect to acknowledge side effect warnings. And third, prescription medication patients contribute to the drug epidemic in America. Thank you.
All right, Michael, I'm going to hold you up as a model for a couple of things, and then, I'm going to also point out something that I think is an issue, and we've talked about a little bit before when we've talked about getting your argument together. First of all, you are an excellent model for citing your information in the presentation. You did a very good job consistently telling us where you got the information from, trying to give those sources credibility, not giving us too much information, but giving us enough information to know why we should trust the particular sites that are being presented. And you were consistent about giving the citation prior to the evidence. So that's really good. And I thought that you were very clear on each of the points. You had 2 or 3 distinct pieces of evidence, and you cited them exactly the way you ought to be citing them. So everybody take note about what Michael did there and pat him on the back for that. Oh, not today, though, because he's sick, and you might get sick also, and we don't want that to happen. All right. I thought the propositions clearly identified. Organizationally, everything's easy to follow, so you've done things correctly there. The issue that I still have is the controversy kind of thing. And in fact, you kind of set it up a little bit at the beginning. I like the example that you have, using your own personal experience as a way to illustrate this problem. I get sick, I go to the doctor tells me how to take the medication, the pharmacist tells me how to take the medication, and then what do? I fail to follow those directions. I'm not sure that anybody is going to doubt that that's the case. So what's the argument? Is the argument that we're not doing enough, that we have nobody to blame but ourselves, that that the pharmaceutical companies shouldn't be sued because we're dumbasses? I'm not sure where there is a dispute on this. I think you're really describing something and you're describing it very clearly, but I'm not sure that it makes much of an inference, and I think that's kind of a prerequisite for an argument, that we have some more of that controversy. So that's, to me, the place that's the weakness in your argument. I do think that there are some places where there is some information that suggests that maybe there is a little bit of a controversy. You have this nice statistic that says 3 out of 4 patients don't always take the medication as they are directed to do so. Okay, so now the question becomes, why do they not do that? And are we not teaching people enough? Do we not, the warnings that the doctors give, are they not dire enough? Are the directions that the pharmacist goes over, do they not include the warning that says, if you fail to follow these directions, you will die, or you will, some harmful consequence will occur to you? I'm just not sure, kind of what the alternative is. And I think that there's an implied suggestion here that we ought to be doing something more, but I don't know what that more is. And I think that that's, like I said, a little bit where the problem lies. The second point on the adverse drug consequences, the mistakes, you've got good information, talks about the number of people who get hospitalized, the number of people who die because of these adverse drug reactions or problems that they have. This is not something that is clearly related to their not taking the drugs appropriately. I think you need to find, what's missing here is some link that says that people, those 4.5 million people, the reason they're having an adverse drug reaction is because they didn't clear the drug that they're taking with their pharmacist with other drugs that they're taking, or because they didn't follow the directions that said don't consume alcohol at the same time you're doing this, or make sure you take this on a full stomach, or something like that. And those 100,000 deaths, if it's due to people's lack of knowledge or their failure to follow the directions, there might be something we can do to fix those issues. Sometimes medications just have a toxic side effects for some people, and again, that's not really much of an argument. You're just pointing out something that is true in this particular case. I think you need to relate it back to the point that says people are not doing the right thing, and that's why these things are happening. And I think that that's the link that's missing there. And then on the third point I think is probably the place where you have the clearest argument, that we are not careful enough with our drugs and they become easily abused because we are not monitoring them. And you've got the good examples of kids starting to, every day, I forget what your number was, every day you've got X number of kids who take a pain medication for the first time for a recreational purpose, that kind of thing, instead of, for instance, for being ill. And I'm going, now there's something, or people are not following a direction that we could easily fix this. There could be a consequence to this. There's here's something that's definitely manageable, or maybe we haven't given people enough warning about those kinds of things. I think there's a lot of grounds for an argument there, and that could be developed a little bit more. So, like I said, it's the same issue that we talked about a little bit when you and I were talking about your outline. I think you got closer to making it more of an argument, and all of the organizational stuff and all the evidence stuff is in good shape. And I think you did a pretty good job presenting it too. Sorry you're not feeling well. All right.
Hey, Michael, I'll pick you up some work.